right, here we go. Living now, living right now. This is L.Nathan Hare, your host for this next hour here at WFO 96.5 FM on your dial from 10 to 11 o'clock this morning. Sponsored by the Community Action Organization of Western New York, still fighting the war on poverty, now in our 52nd year. In fact, I got to tell you, we're almost in our 53rd year. Our annual luncheon, we moved from the annual dinner to an annual luncheon this year, but still our annual. 53rd one will be on June 8th. It's going to be at the Convention Center from 12 in the afternoon until 2:30 in the afternoon. We have already confirmed that Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is going to be our keynote speaker, who will be talking to us about all of these changes that New York State is facing as a result of the federal tax bill that was passed in December and its implications for different states, because you won't be able to deduct state and local property taxes from your income for the purpose of your federal taxes, your adjusted gross income. There are implications for how that gets to be handled in different states. In New York State, if you've been paying attention to the budget, you know that there have been some provisions set up in New York State so that you could actually voluntarily put money into a charitable, account, put money into something that funds education, and you can actually deduct that money from your federal income taxes. In addition to that, it lowers the amount of state federal taxes that get collected from your check, because the money that you put into the school systems, or the money that you put into a charitable foundation, that money is treated as if it was tax money taken from your paycheck. So, I mean, there's more to the story than what I just said. We can't talk about all of that, at one time, but a mechanism has been created to help blunt the impact of the federal tax law that was passed in December. So Kathy Hochul is going to be here to talk to us about that and all the other implications of that stuff. She's the lieutenant governor, so she's second in command. So if anybody knows the answers, she knows the answers, right? So you can come if you have a stake in this, especially if you're somebody who's working for a not-for-profit or working for government, somebody who is engaged in stuff where federal taxation has significant meaning for you. You want to be at this luncheon. It's going to be on June 8th. It's going to be at the Buffalo Convention Center from 12 o'clock to 2:30 on that day. You contact the Community Action Organization, ask for Yvonne Hairston, or ask for Catherine Roberts, 881-5150. That's 881-5150. Or you can go on our website, right? So you can go www.caowny.org, and our website will come up. You'll see the annual luncheon. Just hit the button and you can register right there. Ticket prices are only $50. We've held our ticket prices pretty low for the past 53 years. Right? So hopefully you all will be there and participate, because this is how we finance a lot of the initiatives that we have that don't get grant funding. We use these dollars to be able to expand those services that we provide to our community, like our Second Chance program, our juvenile justice program, our Nurture Academy that we operate in the 5 community centers that we operate as an agency. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but I want to make sure that you got that in there. So put that on your calendar, June 8th, that's a Friday, from 12 o'clock to 2:30 in the afternoon. The annual dinner of the Community Action Organization. Kathy Hochul is our keynote speaker. $50. Call 881-5150. That's 881-5150. We look forward to seeing all of you there. Okay. So having said that, let me, just a shout out to the mayor. He's always trying to find ways that tend to be done normally in a lot of communities. We just need to make sure it gets done well in this community. Notifying people about the firefighters exam. That exam is coming up fairly shortly, and you need to get yourself lined up to take advantage of that opportunity. You really want the civil service of your city to reflect the people that live in your city. So if 40% of the people that live in Buffalo are African people, you would expect over time something fairly close to 40% of the people who work for the fire department, for the police department, for streets and sanitation, et cetera, to be African people. But that's only going to happen if people actually take the exam, right? So you have to have people, apply, take the exam. I don't know what the fee is. It can't be more than like $10 or something, right? For the kind of money that you make as a firefighter. And I know it's dangerous work, but there's the flip side of it. It's not like you're fighting a fire every day, right? So, you know what I mean? So if you got a job where you really only have to be in the danger zone, 1 out of 5 days, that seems to me like it's worth it, right? You get really good benefits. It's a very club kind of a atmosphere that the guys have and women have in the firehouses. I think that it's a kind of an opportunity that, unless you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, why not be a firefighter, right? And take advantage of this opportunity.
The deadline to apply is April 9th.
So the deadline to apply, Emmanuel Radford, who does the live streaming for the program, was here with me, says that April 9th is the deadline. Today is April 2nd. So you have 7 days to get this done. So go down, apply, decide later on that maybe you didn't want to do it, but go down and apply right now so that you got your name in the hat. And then, we can begin the process of helping people from there. And I know the mayor's office has a number of initiatives that are being done through City Hall to help people to get through this process and to coach people to become successful in becoming firefighters. I want to build on something that we began talking about last week. We had a discussion about a recent study that demonstrated that black males in the United States continue to remain the most targeted for disparate negative treatment by the criminal justice system, by schools, by mental and physical health care systems, the denial of educational and employment opportunity, and being the most socially marginalized through hyper-stereotyping of black males in this society. Caucasians as a whole enjoy a tacit entitlement to expect the governmental and social systems of America to respond positively and immediately to their needs. When they interact with the police, they expect the police to respond to them as if the police are servants to their community. Who knew that the police were public servants? See, so in Caucasian communities, they don't just know that, they expect that. And they go nuts if that's not what occurs, right? But in the African community, it seems that the police do not carry themselves as if they see themselves as servants of the African communities. They carry themselves in a way as if they see themselves as just policing the African communities, finding something wrong, in the behavior of somebody, in the community, literally lording it over people, acting like because they got all of these laws that say that, if something doesn't smell right, you can shoot it, and that sort of thing. So they have this sense of entitlement that they can lord it over people. They can order people around. They can act real huffy towards people. They can be, as if they're, overseers. Like, in the old slave days, they had the overseers on the plantations. They act like they're the overseers over the African community. They don't act like that when they're in other communities, right? And so my point here is that creates an environment that breeds a sense of fatalism, that breeds a sense of not being connected, to the ladders of opportunities in the country. You feel more like the ladder is sitting on top of you rather than it being a ladder that you can climb, to get up on something. As long as the ladder actually is on your shoulders, right? You don't get to climb the ladder. You just holding the ladder. So, right? And That's not funny. Okay, that's serious, right? So we learn agents of these government and social systems, like the police, the courts, school teachers, school administrators, store clerks, bar owners, and so on, are virtually given tacit permission, particularly in relation to African males, to treat African males as suspects, as malcontents, as perpetrators, as unmotivated, as more at risk of failure than being at risk of life success. Think about that for a second. African males are treated as a group as if all African males are at risk of failure in life, as opposed to being at risk of succeeding in life. Wouldn't you rather be thought about as somebody who's at risk of succeeding as opposed to at risk of failing? So we learned that black male children last week in wealthy families, in the top 20% of the income earners in the United States, children in those households have a 50-50 chance that when they become adults, they'll be in the bottom 20%. That's extraordinary, right? So when we say that, helping people to connect to opportunity, to economic, rungs on the economic ladder and so on, that if you help people to do that, once they get there, they can make it on their own. Apparently, that's not actually the case. Caucasian children growing up in families with incomes in the top 20% of the country are 5 times more likely to stay in the 20%. Come on in, Byron. They are 5 times more likely to stay in the top 20% than they are to fall into the bottom 20%. And just so you all know, the commotion here is I have my mayor here, right? And we're going to be talking about, we just talked about it too, the fire exam. Byron, I was just telling people something, and it kind of fits to what we're talking about right now. This was a study that was done by Emily Badger, Claire Kane Miller, and Kevin Quealy, and the article was titled, "For Black Men Growing Up Rich May Not Help."
I read it.
So you know what I'm talking about, study,
I do.
right?
I do.
The odds are even, Stephen, that if you're in the top 20% of household incomes as a black male child, when you become an adult, the odds are even, Stephen, that you're going to end up in the bottom 20%, right? And so we need to understand a lot of that. Well, part of that I want to get into what we're talking about today. Because if we don't take every opportunity to take advantage of civil service possibilities, right? So a firefighter, I grant you that it's a dangerous job. So I'm not going to argue it's not a dangerous job. It's a dangerous job. But it's not like you're fighting a fire all day, every day, right? So you do get some relief.
There is downtime. There is significant relief.
So talk a little bit about this firefighter's exam and the opportunity that presents for people and how we can get people connected to this opportunity.
So the salary for firefighter starts somewhere around between $35,000 to $40,000, and will go over the life of a firefighter's career to about $75,000.
So you start around $35,000 to $40,000. That's
correct.
The start.
With full medical and dental benefits. The other good thing about the job as a firefighter is when you work for 20 years, you can retire with full benefits.
So you get in 20 years, you could be 41 years old, and you could retire, draw on that money, and go get you another job.
Absolutely.
You could be pretty fat fairly quickly, right?
That is one of the things that is the beauty of the job as a Buffalo firefighter. In fact, there are people who are former Buffalo firefighters who are millionaires, who are doctors, who are lawyers, and they use that opportunity to work on the Buffalo Fire Department to pursue other things and to build wealth and opportunity for themselves and their families.
So there aren't many opportunities that you can get where you can work for 20 years for a company and not only retire from that company, but also be able to draw on your retirement and then work another job while you're doing that. So you can actually give yourself a quantum raise, when you retire and go into a different job opportunity. So here again, years ago when you and I were younger, there was a lot of hullabaloo about racism and the opportunity to become a firefighter. Court cases, were won. And so now we have opportunity. We have our own, not our own because you're the mayor of everybody, but we have an African-American mayor of the city of Buffalo. We have a lot of people in the infrastructure of civil service and the various departments of the city of Buffalo. And so it seems to me that we've got to become very, very conscientious about exploiting those opportunities that are now available to us. That means you got to sign up. And I'm telling people, that's why I said it a little bit earlier, sign up now and decide later that you don't want to do it. But sign up right now.
That is good advice because there's 1 week left to sign up. The application deadline is Monday, April 9th. That is a week from today. And we know from past history that many people wait until the last minute to sign up for the exam. Mm-hmm. I've even run into people, the last time the exam was offered was 2013, and I ran into people after that exam who said, I wish I had signed up for the exam. I don't want anybody to be in that position because this exam is only offered about every 4 years.
Wow.
So if you don't sign up and preserve your opportunity to take the test by April 9th, you could lose out on that opportunity for 4 years.
Right. It could be, It could be 2022, right, before you'd be able to have an opportunity to do this again. So you got to jump on this right now. Now, don't get afraid of the test. I mean, I don't know what this specific test is, but I'm pretty sure they're not asking you for the physics of how fire moves from one room to another. They're not asking you stuff like that on the test. They're asking you if you add 2 and 3, can you get 5, like 4 out of 6 times? I'm sure it's that kind of an exam.
Yeah, it's the exam is not rocket science, and when you sign up for the exam, you can also get a study guide to help prepare for the exam.
Yep.
And then once you sign up, we will notify you of a 1-week prep course that is being offered at the Buffalo Employment and Training Center so that you can get even more assistance in preparing for the exam and being able to score well on the exam, and that's what we want people to do. The exam is going to be offered May 1st, which is a Tuesday at the Buffalo Convention Center, and to be able to sit for that exam, people need to sign up by April 9th. Now, there will be thousands of people taking that exam. Mm-hmm. The last time this exam was offered, over 2,500 people took it, and we hired a little bit more than 200 people from that last exam. So about 10%. So about 10% of those that take this exam will actually be hired.
Firefighters.
Will become
right.
firefighters.
So you figure if we could get 100, African people to take the exam, you may get somewhere around 10 African people to become firefighters.
That's correct.
It's not like we have 20,000 firefighters, so it can make a difference in terms of how the fire department looks if we get 10 or 20 more people into the fire department.
The other benefit, my administration was able to negotiate with the union that Buffalo firefighters now must live in the city of Buffalo for their entire career.
Okay.
So there is lifetime residency. And to take this exam to be a Buffalo firefighter, you have to live in the city of Buffalo.
That is outstanding, because that's one of the things you and I used to talk about years ago. All these people left Buffalo, right? But they didn't leave their jobs. So now you get all of these people that live in the suburbs, but they work in Buffalo. They don't pay any taxes to Buffalo, but Buffalo still has to mount the same amount of fire and police and streets and sanitation and so on to take care of the city, and that creates a tremendous burden on those people who are left, who have to pay for services to people that don't actually live in Buffalo.
So now over time, perhaps in the next 5 to 10 years, just about every member of the Buffalo Fire Department will physically live in the city of Buffalo and pump that income back into the city and make the city more economically vibrant, will make the city much stronger.
So I think we have a caller. Hang on. I think we have a caller. Hi, caller. How you doing? Now. They should do that right now. Okay.
Yeah, because they have until April 9th to apply to take the test. That's 1 week from today.
If not later. Mm-hmm.
This is something, my idea of planning for a family, as with these tests and these deadlines, is 20 years before
You know, you're right. You have to plan in advance, and this is not the first day of this recruitment. We've been doing recruitment for a while.
with anything and everything, Mr. Mayor, that we wait until we don't think about going in those schools when they're in elementary school. Fire, talking about the requirements, the drug test. We wait until it's too late because you're also talking to someone who had undiagnosed ADD when I was younger. So I was hard drive to fail. And the same with family planning. People wait until they're pregnant. When the time to plan for a family is 20 years before you start having one because you need a brain that's hardwired to nurture. And if you can't nurture yourself, you certainly won't be doing it that. And in addition to that, real quick, Mr. Mayor, when any person low income is applying for any kind of assistance, they have a set of requirements that they must meet and identify. I was very tired and I'm very upset to have Kathy Coco cut the ribbon at this Alexander building. Now, those developers and real estate moguls, including the ministry, they get all this corporate money. As a low-income person, when I sign up for any program, I am given a list of perjury, things that I can do or cannot do, or I'll be thrown out or disqualified. These developers and real estate moguls get all this corporate welfare, and there is no admission. They're getting our money, and poor people do pay taxes.
Yeah. So,
How is it there is not a percentage of these?
right.
Everything they touch, if they get 1%,
Right. I hear you. Right.
need to get away from this legalized segregated housing.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
everybody in it has to be able to afford $1,800.
Yep. Let me look. Right. Look.
Rodeo Drive or this is
Uh-huh.
housing that prefabricated build when 10 years later it's still roaches, rats, and gang infections.
Okay. Let me let the mayor respond. Okay. You covered a whole lot of bases there, but thank you very much. Okay.
So very quickly on the housing, number one, that is not happening. Any developer that gets any kind of public money, they have to follow certain set requirements. and we are building mixed income neighborhoods. We're building affordable housing in neighborhoods across the city. There was just a story that came out with us spending $500,000 per house to rehabilitate affordable housing and put people who are making just $20,000 to $25,000 a year in that housing so that they can be in quality housing. Now, with our fire department, we're always in schools through fire prevention, talking to our children. Every year in the month of October, we have firehouse open houses for families and children and young adults to come in and see what our firefighters do. And we are encouraging all people in our community to take this exam right now. So if you live in the city of Buffalo and you are younger than 45 years old and you are older than 20 years old, you should take this exam and preserve the opportunity to become a Buffalo firefighter. You have to sign up by April 9th, and the exam will be given on May 1st, and we will help you study for it.
Yeah. And Byron, are there any minimum requirements a person has to meet to become a firefighter?
High school diploma or GED.
You got to be kidding me. You can make $35,000 to $40,000 a year to start, and all you require is a high school diploma, a willing body, be a little bit drug-free. Let's be honest about that part too. But that'll put you on a threshold.
Yes.
And then, if you win a position, you got really a career for life, right? And I want to say this, that we have been, and you've been doing this for quite some time, since 2005, going into schools, going into neighborhoods, talking to people. Part of what I think we need to maybe do a little bit more crisply is get people in the various communities to think about civil service itself.
Absolutely.
As a career track. Not even just the fire department or the police department, but think about civil service itself. Go down and apply for all of those civil service exams to be a stenographer, to be, whatever there's a civil service exam for. Apply for that stuff. If you decide you don't want that career because you've got something else going on, nobody's going to be mad. But if you don't put yourself in a position, there's nobody to pull into those jobs.
They are good jobs with good pay. They pay more than a living wage. They are family-sustaining jobs. They are jobs where the individual can afford to buy a home. They can afford to buy a car. Mm-hmm. They can afford to pay for their children to go on to college or career. These are great jobs, civil service jobs, and the firefighter job is an excellent opportunity. It's a career opportunity. You start at between $35,000 to $40,000 a year. You go to about $75,000 a year, and when there are overtime opportunities at every
which are
level,
a lot,
which are a lot, those jobs pay even more. We have spent tens of millions of dollars on new facilities and equipment for our firefighters. We continue to spend that money to make sure that the residents of our city are safer in their homes and that our firefighters who risk their lives doing this job are safer when they go out to do this difficult and dangerous work.
And think about your pride in yourself. When you're sitting down with folks at your family reunions or Easter or at whatever place, you're socializing and whatnot, and people ask, who are you? What do you do? You say, I'm a Buffalo firefighter. Your eminence goes way, way up.
Absolutely. Right? Tremendous respect for our Buffalo Fire Department, for our Buffalo firefighters. They are known as Buffalo's bravest
and finest.
And finest.
Right.
There is just tremendous respect that these careers give you, and these are careers where you can raise a family, where you can make a good living, and if you are very focused and very enterprising, you can become rich. You can do other things. You can go into other careers. Some of our firefighters own other businesses.
Right.
Some of our firefighters have law degrees, have master's degrees. I know a few firefighters that started in Buffalo that are now doctors. So this is a great job with great benefits, full health benefits for a firefighter and their family, full dental benefits for a firefighter and their family, retirement after 20 years of service, and you can take a full pension and then start another job.
You just gotta love
career.
it. Gotta love it. I think we have a caller hanging on. Let me grab that real quick and see what that caller has to say. And by the way, you can always go on. Is there a caller right there? Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Yes.
Good morning. You're here with your mayor. I'm sorry. Sure.
Can you describe the process after you take the exam? So how long will it take for the results to be mailed? Or how are the candidates notified?
Yeah.
What is the procedure, especially in light of the psychologist being dismissed or he resigned?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, caller. So there, it will be a few months before candidates are notified in writing. There is a physical agility portion after the written testing. There is a psychological portion after the written testing. The psychologist that was evaluating candidates for fire and police has resigned. There will be a new psychologist that will be selected that will be doing that phase of the process. The training takes 19 weeks, so every candidate that successfully gets into the Fire Academy will have 19 weeks of training. There are several ways that folks who are denied getting into the academy can appeal that process. They can appeal it. I think there are 3 different ways that appeal can be made, but clearly not everyone can get into the Buffalo Fire Department because there are a limited number of openings. From this exam that will be offered this May 1st, there will be a little over 200 people that will get jobs as Buffalo firefighters. And so that is how the process works, but you have to be in it to win it.
There you go.
And if you don't apply by April 9th, you will not have any opportunity at all to even sit for the exam May 1st.
I didn't mention this, but I want to make sure that women in the audience don't think that they can't apply because they think that it's too physical of a job for them. The reality is that most women can handle 60 or 70 pounds that they got to wear and carry and whatnot. I mean, you carry babies around all the time, so I know you can do that. And so that's really not that big of an issue. Agility is not going to be that different or any different between men and women and so on. So it's really just a matter of can you put up with working outside? Can you put up with working in environments where there may be smoke and odors that may be something that penetrates your nose, and that sort of stuff.
There are more and more women going into the fire department, going into the fire service. We want our fire department to look like the city of Buffalo. And so we have certainly a large number of women that
at least
half that live in the city of Buffalo. So we encourage you, regardless of race, regardless of religion, regardless of gender, identity.
Whatever that is.
Whatever that is, to take this exam. The exam is April 9th. You have to apply by April 9th. That's 1 week from today. And the exam is at the Buffalo Convention Center on May 1st. And we expect that there could be more than 2,000 people that
That
take
will-
this exam.
Right. So we got to take a quick break, or you got a call. You're gonna take that call first, then, right? Yep. So hold on, we're gonna grab this last call. I'm gonna let you go, Mayor. Caller, are you there? Yes. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. In the past, we've had young men and women that have took this test from say the minority, what you might call the minority community.
Yep.
Yet still, even though they may go as far as the psychiatry been eliminated, is where we know that they can put appeals in. But what happened to those people that on the last term that maybe have took the physical, that took utility test and hadn't got to the psychiatrist yet, already and never been called or never had a letter sent out to them? What happened to those people? Do they have to go back and spend that money and take the exam again? And also, why is it that white women tend to take the black men's place as far as minorities? I mean, how we get that twisted is where you walk across the stage every year after year and we see 40 whites and 2 or 3 black men on here, and it's 47% black, and we still allow that to go on year after year when none of our mayors, nor that lady up in Civil Church that needs to be gone, you see what I'm saying, do anything about it, because black, they can't see what's going on. That's clear to answer that. And what's going to happen to people that left already that took that exam?
I will answer that. So people take the exam, and when we have reached the number of people that we need to hire, not everybody who is on the list will get called. So there will be people that will pass the exam but have scored lower than other people who are called, and they don't get called. So for those individuals who successfully took the exam, scored a passing grade, but that grade was not high enough to be called, the old list that they're on will expire, and the new list they have to apply by April 9th to take the exam on May 1st. The numbers of African American men, the numbers of Hispanic men getting into the fire department has increased, and those numbers continue to go up. But the only way those numbers can go up is if males from the minority community take the exam. If they don't take the exam, the numbers don't go up. And what we find is in other communities, people take those civil service exams, including fire and police, repeatedly. They take exam after exam after exam, and they take those exams in very, very large numbers. So if another community has several thousand people taking an exam, and one community has several hundred people taking an exam, the community that has thousands taking it are going to have more people finishing successfully than the community that has hundreds taking it. One of the reasons why recruitment has been very heavy at block clubs, recruitment has been very heavy in churches. I want to thank all of those members of the community who have gone door to door in neighborhoods that have been underrepresented in the fire department to make sure that people are aware of this exam. But the larger the number of minority males taking the exam, the larger the number of minority males who will get on to the Buffalo Fire Department.
And it's important for people, and it's just hard work for us to do, but it's important for people to take even that 1 week that we got, or whatever that time period is, of 3 weeks from the end of the application period to when the exam is going to take place. Use that 2 or 3 week period to bone up as much as you possibly can, because this is really like reading literacy and math literacy, type stuff. It's not physics, it's not knowing a whole lot of science, So if people just get their reflexes re-energized, you probably haven't been in school for 5 or 10 or 15 years, and so you got to get yourself kind of muscled up, for taking a test. And so you can go to, is it at the Civil Service Office or the
Yep,
the
it's 1001 City Hall.
So you go to the 10th floor of City Hall, you can just sign up and get coaching, get tutored, on how to take these tests so we can bone up. Because we have had experiences in other cities where you had a large group of people that passed the test, but they passed the test at such a low score rate that they just didn't get a lot of that community brought in. And it's hard because you've seen cities, unions sue because people dipped into the people that scored like 66 and passed over people that scored 90 to try to do racial balancing. And then those cities wound up getting sued, and that whole thing just became a very costly and unproductive exercise that, didn't help anybody. So it's really important that we do everything we can to get as many people to take the exam as possible. Even if you decide you don't want to be a firefighter later on, get into the pool, right now by signing up. Go ahead, Byron.
And so for the last exam, I want to thank the members of the Concerned Clergy Coalition of Western New York. I want to thank the members of the Maston Block Club who helped us recruit for the last exam, where there was almost a 50-50 sign-up between the minority and the majority community.
Yeah.
And the hiring from the last exam, we have seen the most minorities going into the fire service that we have ever seen in the history of the fire service.
Yep.
So this is really up to the community. This is up to the community to help get people to sign up for this exam by April 9th.
Yep.
So that the numbers are up, and the higher the numbers of people from the community who take this exam, the larger the number of people who get into the department will be.
Yep. All right, we got to take care of our sponsors. The CAO pays for this program, so we got to take care of our sponsors. So appreciate, Mayor. I thank you so much for coming down and talking to us about the firefighters exam. So if you all stick with us, we will sit aside at the break here at Living Now, Living Right Now. Welcome back to Living Now here at WFO 96.5 FM on your dial. And we're just talking with the mayor about the firefighters exam. I know I had to stuck that in the middle of our conversation, but this is just really critical stuff because these are opportunities. We may get, I think if there are 200 people that they're hoping to hire, if we can get 40. We could get 35, 40, maybe 50 of those people may come from the African community. Maybe 100 of those people might be women. And, I mean, just rebalancing or balancing the workforce in the fire department, this is just a great opportunity. So hopefully we'll do everything we can to take advantage of it. You have a comment?
Also, we have a comment saying that if you need preparation for the civil service exam, They are given that East, that is Community School East. So all you have to do is go on the website and register, and you can also get help with the civil service exam at East.
Outstanding, outstanding. We have a caller. Hang on. Let me get that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there? Mm-hmm.
The housing police, all they had to do was pass the exam. They didn't have to score high, and they passed over a lot of people. So, just in case you didn't know that, just wanted to give you that tidbit of information so that people in our audience, in our community, don't think that we're the only ones that don't pass high and hope to get passed over. Too bad
No. Yeah.
Because people who scored high got passed over. Well, that's the same thing that happened to African Americans. We got passed over because housing officers, all they had to do was pass the exam. So just wanted to give you that. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you much. And that is, that's a part of the history of how we got into the situation that we're in right now. People treat discrimination, I get so angry about this. If you listen to how they talk about it on the news, they treat things like discrimination and racism, and they call it a culture issue. How is that a culture issue? I thought crime was just a criminal issue. Denying somebody their rights, their constitutional rights, is a crime. It's not a cultural issue. That's criminal, right? And so exactly as our caller just talked about, you allow these systems to operate in a way that they are biased towards one community to favor one community against another community, and then you treat the bias as if it's a cultural phenomenon, not what it really is, which is theft. You are stealing opportunities from people that belong to them. But we've got to realize we're in the place that we're in. This is a society that seems to encourage, that kind of crime being committed against populations. We have a caller hanging on right now. Let me grab that call real quick. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Yeah,
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Well, it's not a question of whether people can qualify from my point of view. It's a question of whether or not people apply for the exam in the first place. We've seen this happen in other cities, and this is what I was trying to allude to, where you have people that have become so disillusioned with the pattern of racism and discrimination that has taken place in municipalities that people don't bother to apply for the exams because they think that they're not going to be treated fairly if they do. And the consequence of that is you end up with a lower number of people from a community, a lower number than their percentage in the population, who apply for the exam. Therefore, you have a lower number of people who pass the exam or in a position to be called off the list. And then, of course, they call off the list based on generally based on the scores that you got on your test. Now, I say generally because you get extra points if you're a veteran. You get extra points, I presume, if you are in what they refer to as a minority status community. There may be other things that would give you some additional points that would help you to be able to move up beyond what your test score actually said. But my point is that, in order for us to fight this battle, we have to not only fight the history of racism and discrimination that has occurred in this society, we also have to put ourselves in a position that we can take advantage of the portion of the opportunity that's still available to us. So that's what we're talking about right now. Sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I guess what I'm suggesting to us is what I was saying to the mayor earlier. We've got to build it as a part of our sort of internalized cultural construct within the various communities, that you go and take the civil service exams of whatever the exam is. Take whatever those exams are as soon as they're being made available. Take the exams, take the test. Even if you decide you don't want that job later on, put yourself in a position where that job might be able to fall to you. I can't tell you how many people I have met in the course of my professional life, working mostly in foundations and not-for-profits and in government, but I have spent some time in the private sector, but mostly in the public sector. How many people I meet who have just a high school diploma, some that don't even have a high school diploma, who are in jobs paying them, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year because they took the exam for whatever the position was. People that work in City Hall, you see in all of these clerk positions, these various processes, the people that you see working in motor vehicles, right? You go to that cashier's thing in motor vehicles. You take a test. You take a test, to get in a position to get one of those jobs. You have to apply for the civil service position. You take a test to become somebody who says, you owe me $186 because you didn't pay your garbage user fee. You took a test to be able to do that, right? That person's making $40,000 a year, and their skill is telling you that you didn't pay your garbage user fee. We can win those jobs, but we have to put ourselves in a position to get them. So I don't want us to stop advocating for inclusion of the various communities of our society. I don't want us to stop trying to get justice for the injustices that we have incurred as a community of people. What I just don't want us to do is to allow that to be, the end of our effort. We have to also continue to become much more present and much more participatory in applying for these civil service positions, taking these civil service exams, making ourselves a very large pool of people to be drawn from. Then it's easier for us to use legal muscle to be able to get more African people as a percentage to get hired in those jobs. Thanks, my brother. I appreciate you, man. All right, talk to you soon. How are we doing on time here? Are we doing okay? We got 5 minutes for the show? The whole show? Okay, we got to talk to Lee, man. I think he cost me 20 minutes. So let me just kind of share just a titch more of what I was talking about from last week. When I talk about the fact that the way that this thing dovetails down on African males, if we look at the growth of college degrees, back in the 1920s, during the Harlem Renaissance period, there were roughly 10,000 American blacks who had been college educated in the entire country. 10,000, not with degrees, just who had been college educated. 10,000 in the entire country in 1920. But today, more than 4.6 million African Americans alive today have at least a 4-year college degree. That number actually represents 1 out of 10. So we gone from 10,000, which was like or 1 out of 10,000, or excuse me, 1 out of 1,000, having a college education, to having 1 out of 10 having at least a college degree. Good news, right? We should feel strong about that, right? But when you start looking at how all of this stuff breaks down, it gets to be a little bit different. So there's a gender cap. Of those 4.6 or so million African Americans who have a college degree, 2.7 million of them are women. Yeah, you didn't know about that. See, 1.9 million are men. That gap is growing. It's not shrinking, it's growing. And why is it growing? It's what we talked about last week. We have a situation where women as a group are treated in this society as if they are victims, right? And men as a group are treated in this society as if they are perpetrators, right? And so when Caucasian women, become much more muscular about making more opportunities to participate in the political process, to participate in what they call non-traditional, I guess non-traditional means there weren't that many women, in them, type jobs, because the jobs were always there. Caucasian women fighting for their space in those opportunities, they fold in African women, because we's all women, right? And so African women, if they're not having success in the African advocacy movement, they can join the women advocacy movement, and they can gain some measure of success as a beneficiary of the women's advocacy movement. But African males, they don't get any of that. In fact, even when they're in school, the teachers, they talk about, male perpetration and whatnot. So if you're a male child, you think you're one of the ones being accused, right? And so the net result is you see less effort, less participation, less success on the part of these African males, because they're being so depressed and repressed in this society, and African females are not experiencing the same thing. Now, when I say this, I want you to understand what I'm saying. When I talk about this racial, this income inequality in this society, the income inequality between blacks and whites in this society is entirely caused by the income inequality of the incomes earned by black men as a whole compared to the society as a whole. I know we can't get into all of this stuff right now, but we're going to get back to this. I swear next week we're going to kind of finish this stuff up. So listen, folks, hopefully we're making some kind of sense. We're going to keep on talking, keep on walking, keep on trying to get this stuff done. We'll see you all next week here at Living Now, Living Right Now.